Hey ladies and gentlemen, Casual Crono here. This is just a fun little video, just for kicks, because I enjoy this stuff and I thought I'd make a video about it. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to make parties kind of based on themes. Are these realistic parties? Technically, yes. They're not going to win any major, huge, super ultra difficult fights. This is just for fun. And I'm going to start with the first party that I thought of, basically, when I was playing the Where Light Does Not Fall episode. The one that focused on Seti, Renri, and Lunaria. The first three characters. So Renri, Seti, and Lunaria are all COA agents. That might be redundant if the A stands for agent, but just run with it. So I thought, let's form like a COA team. And several Lunaria was also a member of the IDA school. And so I started looking at my other options. Hismena is a member of the IDA school, and Izuka is both IDA and COA. So I thought, wouldn't it be really cool to make just a functional team using those characters? So that's exactly what I did. I have Renri, Seti, and Lunaria. Similarities across them. Not only are they all COA, they are all also fire. Renri is a sweet tooth. Lunaria is a sword user. We have lance users. Not too much in the way of personalities. For the most part, fire connects them all and COA connects them all. IDA connects some of them. So the next thing I did was looked at the skill sets for each character. Renri and Lunaria both had one skill which, according to the wiki, has a max modifier of around 4,000 in damage. Lasting Scars for Renri, and Lunaria, Final Slice. And then I looked at the rest of the skill set. So I'm trying to decide basically which character should be the main damage dealer. Final Slice stacks a bonus of power and crit rate to all characters when using it. And if we go to Renri, Lasting Scars applies pain, and the more debuffs there are on the enemy, the more damage it does, and of course if it has pain, the more damage it does. So I thought they're both pretty much identical as far as damage and conditions, so just for fun I made Lunaria the main damage dealer, which means the backup, the reserves, are kind of more Lunaria based. Now, a few other things. So I have two damage dealers. I have a support character in Seti, which means what I'm missing is a tank. Izuka, technically, her ES style is a fire type as well, and inflicts rage. She could be a tank. But I was looking at her overall kit, and I thought Hismena and her tanking skills, which are only accessible through Stellar Awakening, would be a little more functional, even though she's water. So she is a piercer. She inflicts rage. She can counter attack with more piercing damage. And so I thought, that sounds good, and then I could build her with 10,000 HP. Decent for like a mid-game level tank. The other connection I saw, Seti has a skill, Vigilant Lance. Besides reducing power and intellect, for all allies it improves luck, physical, and type resistance. Now physical and type resistance are fairly common buffs, and it is a nice amount, 40%. But this luck by 40%, that's kind of weird. Lunaria, however, has the ability to provide critical guard to all allies with the authorization skill. What is critical guard? If you have a critical rate of 100%, it's active all the time, and it decreases damage based on luck. Remember that SETI has a skill that gives a 40% boost to luck. So between Authorization and SETI's skill, Vigilant Lance, the entire party can take fairly decently reduced damage as long as their critical rate is 100%. To do that, Elpis Spear, well, pretty much all the Elpis weapons have a 100% critical rating. If you don't have them, technically the Void weapons all have critical rates of 100% as well. The only one that doesn't is Hismena, and that's because she's geared for HP. If I wanted to make sure, I could give her the Void Lance and give her a critical rate of 100% as well. But any skills that boost critical rates and stuff work. So that was kind of the foundation. I had a tank, I had 2 potential damage dealers, I had a buffer, and I have characters in the back that can hold Grasta for the whole team. So here's the final gearing. I have Elpis, Power of Pains, and so forth for Renri. SETI has the Elpis Spear, and then various items that help improve combo rate in AF bursts, and enhance if max HP fire, resonant power light, because this entire team is light, and sound body lance. The sound body to give Hismena a little bit more of a boost in her health. Lunaria, Elpis Dryads, max power, and Power of Agonies and Infernal Power of Pain, which improves pain damage and fire damage. And then we have Hismena built for hit points. If I feel I need the critical guard, I could always replace the Fishhook Spear with the Void Lance. Reduces her health some, but gives her pretty much 100% critical guard. Backup characters. Izuka is a member of the COA, as well as the IDA schools, so she can equip Grasta related to those. There's also a sound body personality types. There's a sound body IDA as well, which would help Lunaria in this case. And Hismena. So if I felt the need for a little bit more health, I can buff them up through Izuka at the sacrifice of some damage. And then since I'm going to focus on Lunaria, I have a sword user who does happen to be a member of the IDA school, just in case you all have her 4th slot unlocked. You could always give her the sound body IDA. But she has Power of Inferno sword and 2 enhance if max HP swords. Sidekicks. In a realistic situation, I would usually have Tetra for the heals and enhanced resistances, and I would usually have Gunts because once the AF gauge is used, everyone's stats go up. So I'm going to show you 2 fights. We're in normal Nagsham right now. So, in a real fight situation where I'm having to deal with a boss attacking me, first turn, I could reduce slash resistance, I can reduce power and improve luck, I can go ahead and start the regen and MP regen, and realistically in a fight, the very first thing I would do would be to apply rage. So this would be like my turn 1. Now on a turn 2, I would go ahead and buff Renri. I would buff the whole party. I would buff the whole party. I have rage going, so now I can reduce intellect and I execute Suppressa, which also reduces power. So I can further weaken the boss with that skill. And finally, with all of the debuffs and all of the buffs in place, turn 3, I could usually have filled up the AF gauge at that point. I would blast it and basically spam ones. I would have Pain immediately since she is in the first position and would go first. Hold Up attacks 5 times. Final Slice attacks twice, and as long as my MP is max, I get max damage out of it, and every time I use it, I stacked Deft Strike, which, as I showed you earlier, improves the party's stats a little bit every single time. And she would spam her Rage skill since it attacks 3 times, and also activates her strongest learned unique skill. So we're going to blow the AF gauge and basically just spam all ones. In a burst situation, all 4 characters have stellar skills. So I could do a burst, and in doing so, I can redeploy an awakened double strike stance. I also have the ability to do buff reversal. If there's a boss that is buffing itself to high heaven, I can Stellar Burst, use Enforcement, and I gain buff reversal, which means all of those power buffs or type resistance buffs, etc., become debuffs.
Hands in the air.
So in my opinion, this team is very flexible. It can redeploy awakened zones, it can reverse buffs, it can heal, it can provide an MP regen. I have essentially a true tank, perhaps not one of the best, but when powered by Critical Guard, could become very strong. And I just feel that they synergize very well. Since they're all light, it's usually very easy to get the Stellar Burst gauge back to full, and since it's all light, then their Stellar boards, you know, that little bonus that you get when you burst and you have more light than shadow, they all activate that as well. So that is kind of the 3-turn process that I envision that this team could do. So now let's see what they can do as far as just pure damage output. We're going to New Nagsham, which if you have accessed Sword of Sin and Steel, Chapter 4, you can go to New Nagsham and fight the New Nagsham test dummy. Now this one we won't have the setup, because it's only 1 turn. So we're just going to do all the 3s, all the 2s, and then all the 1s. And I realize that I don't have the correct, sidekicks to improve damage and stuff like that. I'm not worried about that. I just want to show you what this team can do basically under normal circumstances to a dummy. So we're going to blow the AF gauge, do 3s, 2s, 1s, burst as soon as possible, and then just keep attacking. 3, 3, 3, 3. 2, 2. 2, 2. 1s. Burst. This would be redeploying the Awaken Zone. This would be buff reversal if necessary.
Hands in the air.
And we're just going to keep spamming 1s. Oh, I couldn't burst again. That was close. Alright, so this team, which aside from Lunaria can all be Stellar Awakened through Nopal's Emporium, was able to pull off 10 billion in damage in a burst with setup. And that, as I said, that's not optimized. You know, I could be giving all of them Power of Pains. I could be swapping out sidekicks for ones that would actually have an effect in this. So this is not meant to be like, this is the maximum the team can do. This is just a realistic amount of damage that they could do in one burst. So if you have Renri, Seti, Lunaria, and his Mena, and some COA, IDA agents that you could throw in the back row, you don't have to have Azuka, for example, you could create this team and be able to pull out respectable damage, have healing, have MP regen, have tanking, have damage, have support, have buff reversal, have pain. I mean, it checks a lot of the boxes. So, yeah. So there is my COA team on display. Perhaps you can form something similar to it. I will say the Stellar Awakens, his Menas is absolutely required if you want to have Rage. That is how she gains it. Aside from her, Lunaria, of course, if you want to redeploy an Awakened zone, that is the way to do it. But she does have skills that can just put a normal zone up if that's all you need. Seti's Stellar skill is nice because it hits 5 times. It keeps the AF gauge going a little longer than his other skills. Not sure how necessary it is though. And Renri's Stellar skill simply makes her stronger. So that one is kind of skippable as well. So yeah, there's a theme for you. The COA theme, so to speak. Let's see what other types of fun teams I can whip up. This team was a fun one to make. This was the Fugen Itto-Ryu party. So the biggest challenge was placement of characters and deciding who was the main damage dealer. I am working with 2 characters that are not Stellar Awakened, Shion ES and Shiguri Alter. So I realized that their Stellar skills might, like if I had them Stellar Awakened, I'd probably rearrange this a little bit. But here's the general philosophy. Shion ES, well actually I'll start with Akane. Akane is a nonconformist. At turn start, you want to stack a nonconformist stack for as many types as there are in the front line, excluding the user. So basically, you don't want like a team of all fire or all earth. You want a mixture of different elements, basically 3. And then, at turn start, Katana's user's damage increases based on how many type personalities there are. So Akane herself is a fire user. So I want to avoid using fire users. So I looked at who I had. Shion ES is Thunder. Shiguri Alter is Earth. And Shiguri ES is Wind. So I've made sure to have at least 3 type personalities available to max out this whole conformist thing. So basically at the start of every turn she gets 3 stacks of nonconformist, and for every turn all of the katana users have a lot of extra damage. So that was kind of the basis for forming the team. Now, she is Stellar Awakened, and her Fearless Persistence has a very nice modifier. Enhanced, it can go up to 18,900, but that only happens during a stellar burst. Otherwise, and the more stellar bursts you do, the stronger the multiplier gets. So that's going to be the spammable skill and the one I use during a burst, of course. Her other skills that I picked, Blazing Ascent, improves her speed. And depending on how many stacks of nonconformists she has, which she should have maximum stacks, she should deal 3 fire attacks every time she uses Blazing Ascent. And then Fire Slice, she gives herself a power buff. And if I spam it or use it multiple times in a fight, it can stack up. Now that we've decided on who the main damage dealer is, for better or worse, I don't have much experience with Xion ES or Shiguri Alter. I think if they were Stellar Awakened, I might have one of them be the main damage dealer. But Xion ES, he has Fugen Itto-Ryu Crack. It is not only is it a zone ability, so you can make the slash zone stronger. If slash zone is deployed, and I use this, the ally in the frontline slot to the user's right gets a stack of Anata, which is extra power and extra speed. And it also gives an improvement of thunder type attacks, but the buff type changes based on the ally's personality. So now that I'm thinking about it, I am going to swap those two. He also has triple Violet Bolt, which restores health, restores MP, and when in full focus mode, also improves max MP. Full focus mode is gotten by using the unique skill. When you use Fugen Itto-Ryu Crack, you enter full focus mode for 5 turns. So that's kind of the philosophy there. Shiguri Alter also has a skill, Shiguri Style Tiger. If there's 3 or more type personalities, which we made sure there was, there's Earth, Wind, Thunder, and Fire, we get extra critical damage applied to the ally to the user's left. Akane is to Shiguri Alter's left, Akane is to Xion ES's right. So she is the one receiving the buffs from both of them. So that was an issue with the placement of this team. And then he has rendering, wherever it is, rendering Quillen Slash, but it attacks 3 times, so it's a good one to spam on an AF burst. It improves type attack, critical rate, magical critical rate, and if a frontline ally has Prosperity Prayer, which improves health and speed, the strength of this skill is improved. So how do we get Prosperity Prayer? Well, his unique skill set, when you use Shiguri Style Tiger, you stack Prosperity Prayer. There, I said it right. So basically I have to use that skill before I use that skill. He has the ability to deploy a slash zone. So in an AF burst, he's going to be the 3rd person to go, so I won't have the benefit of the slash zone for the very first 2 turns. So that does affect a little bit. Crack requires slash stance to be deployed in order to buff Akane. But triple Violet Bolt, when in full focus mode, restores more health and improves the max MP. But we won't be in full focus mode until we cast Crack. And we don't cast that until after like the first round on the AF burst. So Basically, if you were using this against a boss, you're not going to restore a lot of MP and HP, and you're not going to buff up the max MP values if you burst right away, because this will be the very first skill that you cast, and we're not in full focus mode yet. So a little bit of trickery there. Shiguri Altar. I think we covered all three of those, yes. So that leaves Shiguri ES. Man, try saying this like 5 times fast. There's too many Shiguris and Shions and Akanes. Alright. Cease puts him basically in his tank mode. And so you want him tanking as soon as possible. And he tanks by speed. If he's faster than the enemy significantly, he will dodge most of their attacks. If there's not a huge difference in speed between him and the enemy, then he'll get hit more often. So I think the best you can do is a 90% dodge rate, which means 10% of the time you're just going to be unlucky no matter what. For that 10% of the time, we have bolstering Kie, I think, which improves physical resistance. And in his case, or actually the whole party's case, magic resistance, and they gain damage barriers. And then his spammable skill, he applies Link to any frontline katana allies, which pretty much the whole party except for Shiguri Altar are katana users. And then he activates his unique skill 2 times. Now, activating the unique skill through Sorai Kimbu does not put him in tank mode, so that's why you have to hit Cease at least once. So, how are they geared? Well, I thought it'd be fun for this team just to go all-out DPS. They're all katana users, and the heals basically come from Tetra and Shiguri Altar. So, Dryads, Scarlet Glow, Power Luck, you got your Power of Pains, and let's give him a Faded Starproof. Akane, Elpis, because she's the main damage dealer, Dryads, Power, and Power of Pains, and Infernal Power of Pain. Shiguri Altar, Elpis, Dryads, Power, Pains, and so forth. He's an Earth user, so Earth Power of Pain. And Shiguri ES is more geared for defenses, so he has items that improve things like combo rates, or Grasta that improves the team's power. He also has, for fun, Power of Absorb Eastern. It absorbs 1% of inflicted damage and improves type attacks by 25% for all Eastern characters. And the Fugen Itto-Ryu group collective are all Eastern characters. Elemental zones don't matter to this team because we have thunder, fire, earth, and wind. So you're not going to make everyone happy. So the only zone that makes sense for this particular group is Dazzling / Stance. And if it ever gets dispelled, we have Shiguri Altar who can put it back up. So for this team, I'm just going to go ahead and fight the test dummies. Backup characters. Aldo has Enhance if max HP swords, basically for Shiguri Altar, and Almighty Power Itto-Ryu. Senya is holding katanas and Almighty Power Eastern. Now normally you would also throw in like Power of Katana Fire, which would improve Akane's damage, but it wouldn't help anyone else. So I tried to stay a little more generic with my choices. Enhance if max HP Katana helps 3 characters. Enhance if max HP Eastern helps all 4 characters. So that was kind of the logic with those choices. If I really wanted to, since Shiguri is not the main damage dealer, I could, instead of like Sound Body East, put in like Enhance Katana Fire if I wanted to. But that would only be improving 1 character. sidekicks, Tetra for heals, resists, and so forth, and Kuamaru. Slash resistance is going to be reduced by 20% because this is just a fast team. And they are all slash users. So I thought that would be fun. So a typical rotation for this team. Turn 1. I can kind of use whatever I want for turn 1. I'm just going to go ahead and use triple violet bolt. Fire slice to improve power. Let's go ahead and get this slash stance going. And we will enter tank mode.
Train harder.
Now we are in slash zone. So now, since I'm in a slash zone, if I use Fugen Itto-Ryu crack, then I will stack Anata on Akane. She, in the meantime, will just improve her speed. I'll do Shiguri style Tiger, and that will stack, let's see, applies the following effects. I guess it stacks a Prosperity Prayer, but it also improves your critical damage, improves number of skill hits, and so forth. So on turn 2, both of them are buffing Akane. And we'll just go ahead and do a physical resistance for the party. Because in a real fight, I would be taking damage as well. And here on turn 3, that's when I can blow the AF gauge and just start spamming the first skill. Over and over and over again. And we'll just go ahead and burst early. And there's our burst. We will Sorai Kimbu. Fearless Persistence. And remember, in a burst, it's a lot stronger.
I'm gonna cut you to pieces.
And then we just resume the mass slaughter. So that's kind of the 3-turn rotation with the Itto-Ryu collective here. You'll notice Shiguri ES is absorbing all massive amounts of damage, so if he ever gets hit, if he doesn't get knocked out, he should be able to restore his health pretty quickly. And when we need MP regen, Shiguri Alter can cast Sage's Retainer. Actually, that was the wrong one. Triple Violet Bolt. That would be Shion ES.
Another one for the Underworld's tab.
So, how much damage can this team pump out? Let's head to the other Nagsham and find out. Again, remember, I'm not saying these are perfect teams. These are just, if you happen to have these characters, this is a way to assemble them and beef them up so they all play off of each other and improve themselves. Oh, we have a network error. Interesting. Everything looks in order. A little box in the wall says I have internet, so we're going to try this anyway, see what happens. Alright, so we're going to blow the AF gauge. We're going to do the 3s, then the 2s, and then the 1s. 3, 3, 3, 3. 2, 2, 2, 2.
Train harder.
All ones.
Train harder.
Burst. Sarai. Fearless.
See, look, still on that
Train harder.
And resume.
Train harder.
So all I'm doing is spamming the ones.
Thunder. Train harder.
With only 2 stellar characters, I don't think I can fill the stellar burst gauge again in this burst. But they were all awakened. It might be more likely. Oh, I couldn't burst again. Alright. Because I have 2 EX characters, I have a choice on the end attack.
Alright, listen up. And if you're too far to
I chose
hear,
Shiguri ES
come
just
in
because
here.
he's stellar awakened and
'Cause the Fugen Tiger himself, Shigure,
the other one is
here.
not. I don't really know if it
The winds
matters.
may flow on a wind all their own, but they all blow towards the point of my sword, and with them carry fortune as fierce as it is bold.
So this team that has a tank, has the ability to heal, regen, MP, and buff each other, can do 27 billion in damage in a single burst. In ideal situations, of course. We don't know what kind of debuffs you'll encounter, but again, here's the Itto-Ryu collective at work. Here's an interesting team that I came up with. Personality-wise, it is the Fairy team. Sukiya Alter, spoiler alert, Senya, Sukiya, and Kagurame. With back row support, the Hozukis. So in this case, Kagurame is the tank, Sukiya is the main damage dealer, though I think personally it could probably go either way, Senya and Sukiya. Sukiya Alter has a unique ability to Kaleido another character. It doesn't show up in her skill list, it's her base skill, it's called Morale. And when she applies Morale to someone, she changes them and their skills permanently to fire. Well, Sukiya is fire. Senya is fire. Sukiya normal style is fire. So who does that leave? Kagurame, who is shade. So I can use morale and turn Kagurame and all of her attacks into fire attacks, and I have essentially a fire team with a tank, supporter, damage dealer, and buffer. So let's take a look at this team. Sukiya is geared to basically support fairies personality and fire personality. It just so happens that this entire team is also Eastern. So she can have things like Sound Body Eastern, Sound Body Fairy, and beef up pretty much the whole team. Senya and Sukiya normal style are katana users. So one of them can hold the Grasta that will buff the other one. So in this case, Senya holds Power of Inferno katana, Enhance of Max HP katana, and Enhance at Low HP katana. He has the Winged Ones badge, which improves a little bit of the combo rate. And then Shade Curse Ring and Divine Ashen Blade, his personal weapons. Sukiya has Elpis, Dryads, a +50 power badge, and the typical Power of Pains. Kagurame is geared for defense, for tanking. So for me, that means I try to give her as much hit points as possible. So Kawaii Weight, Elpis Bangle, a 2000 HP badge, which if you don't have a 2000 HP badge, if you run Toto's Theater World, you can get a 2000 HP badge at the sacrifice of something. I usually would slice my speed in half. And then Grasta, 3 Grasta, all equipped with HP ore, because I don't have much shadow on Kagurame. The 2 characters in the back are holding Fairy and Eastern related Grasta, and in one case, Resident Power Shadow, because 4 of the 6 party members are Shadow users. And here's more Fire, Eastern, Eastern. Sidekicks, my standard Tetra and Guns. So in a multi-turn setup, this is pretty much the flow that I
I will
have,
cut down anything that gets in my way.
or I envision, I guess is probably the best. So morale. I click it and I choose Kagurame. That will turn her into a fire user. Kagurame will go ahead and activate her defense. It's called Scarlet Defense and also provides a counterattack. We'll go ahead and enter Awakened Blade mode. And we'll just go ahead and White Flame it. You'll notice that Kagurame now has 25,000 health. And that's before further buffs. We're going to go ahead and deploy a Fire Zone. We'll go ahead and Shadow Flash Dusk. We did Awakened Blade, so now we can inflict pain with Sukiya, normal style. And I can provide a regen and, more importantly, an MP regen for the whole party on this turn. Sorry, it's not for the whole party, it's just for her. I misread it. Yep, apply the following effects to user. Alright, so now we can attack. We can attack, attack, and attack. And you'll notice when Kagurame uses Entropic Chop, it'll look red right here. So she is able to contribute to the AF gauge. You'll see that Bag Batty is very low on health already. So in a typical AF burst, we would cast basically the ones over and over and over again. We are in Silver Shroud mode, so we get the benefit of the Win-Inch Silver Shroud there at the bottom of the descriptions. We'll do Scalding Serenade over and over again, and Entropic Chop. And we'll go ahead and burst just for fun. Alright, there's our burst. We can go ahead and give ourselves a Link attack. And we can use Ascended Blade Stellar Burst.
I will handle his power with utmost care.
Bag Batty's already been defeated, but just for completion's sake. Remember the numbers that you see here, you'll notice that Bag Batty no longer has any debuffs, no longer has pain. Once an enemy has been defeated, all buffs drop. So this is kind of just raw damage. If there was pain still on the enemy, you would see much higher damage from Scalding Serenade, And of course, all of the, reduce fire resistance, reduce slash resistance, all that stuff.
Let us fight together.
So that is kind of the general flow of the fight.
Did that do all right?
And I think it's fairly sustainable. I don't have a good way to regen mana for 3 of the 4 characters, so that could be a problem, and Sukiya obviously gets hurt as she attacks. So she needs a way to stay healthy, but on the flip side, whoops, not skills, the enhance at low HP Grasta are always kicking in for her. So I thought that was a fun little team, and I did try this in the new Nagsham, kind of like the one turn, just to see how much damage you can do. There is an issue with it. I can't cast Morale when I fight Big Bag Baddie, which means Kagurame is not doing fire damage, which basically hastens the AF burst bar. I don't get as many hits in. And then I'm still kind of sort of working out the order, because I do like getting a link attack in and improving critical damage, and I also like to use Wakeful White Flame and get a Radical Zone going. So I will probably at least try to work in the Radical Zone. And when I do that, you will see that for the 2 katana users, their first skill will change and actually provide that little bit of MP regen. So just for ease sake, we're going to just do all the 3s, all the 2s, all the 1s, and then try to work in Wakeful White Flame. 3, 3, 3, 3. 2, 2, 2, 2. All 1s. And now I'm going to work in a Wakeful White Flame. When you are in a Radical Zone, his attack and Sukiya normal style's attack, their base attack, becomes Resonance Blade. And it's a strong attack, but it also restores 10% of MP. So I can use that. Of course, I can use Ascended Blade as well. Strength for it improves as her hit points get lower. And then I can continue the assault afterwards, if I have enough time. Nope, no more hits. Now, I can only do the Radical Zone once per fight, so I can't rely on that as a constant source of MP regen, but it is a way. And despite the fact that Kagurame is not doing fire attacks, which would have kept the AF gauge going longer, this team did pump out close to 4 billion in damage with a very low combo rate. So this team is definitely capable of doing billions in damage in one turn if the setup is right. And of course, if you do this on turn 2 or turn 3, by then you've used morale, and Kagurame can probably make the damage go up a little more. So, functional? I think so. Kagurame can tank. We can set a fire zone as often as we want, and we can do damage. We have Tetra for healing, and we have Kagurame's counterattacks, and we have a Radical Zone ability. So we have a lot of options with this team. And we can actually pump Kagurame's hit points even higher. If her self MP regen is not terribly important to you, she does have another skill called Ibayashi Rejuvenation. It improves her max health max MP, restores health to the party, and restores statuses. So she definitely can keep the party alive. So I can see MP regeneration being a slight issue. I also don't have Kagurame Stellar Awakened. Nowhere close. So there are possibilities to make this team even stronger than what you're seeing now. But I thought that was kind of fun. It makes use of the fairy and kind of the Eastern personality, though honestly the Eastern personality allows many different combinations, not just this particular one. However, this one focuses on fairy characters, which if I go to my filter, I don't think I have every single one, but I do have these characters to pick from. And if I had Nikoko ES Stellar Awakened, I might be using her instead of one of these characters, because she can Kaleido in and then do massive buffs and stuff like that. But anyway, another kind of theme team for you to consider, just for fun. This is the fairy team. For my fourth team, I find this one to be fairly functional, all things considered.
And upsy daisy.
This is
That's
the
my good
Estrangement
girl.
Team. Nina, Izuna, Yuna, and Yakumo are all estranged characters. And back row support, Vivi is Estrangement, and so is Melody. They all happen to be staff users, and Yakumo can deploy an awakened magic zone. So, fairly functional and fairly synergetic. So let's start with tanking, since we talked about Yakumo. Yakumo, through his stellar skill, Overclock, he can redeploy and actually destroy a currently deployed zone and deploy Awakened Magic Fates stance. And his zone ability gives him 50 seasoned, which is basically a 50 out of 99 stack on the magic zone. That makes it more powerful. So he is kind of a tank. He doesn't have rage, which is a bit of an issue with tanks. But what he does have, he can improve his intellect, speed. He can restore his own MP. And then he can also... Whoops, did I just re-click that? Yes, I did. Through crunch time, the entire party can gain a shield equal to Yakumo's consumed MP, times 10. So if he consumes 100 MP, he would get a 1000 shield. So in Magic Fate's zone, he improves physical resistance, magic resistance. Overclock reduces type resistance. And Karma... Oh, we already talked about Karma. Overwork. Overwork, preemptive. All party members gain a buff to intellect and speed and improve maximum MP. You can also awaken the current zone. And it lasts for 5 turns if you're at 50 seasoned plus. So he can basically protect the team, he can buff the team, and he can reduce defenses on enemies and deploy a zone. Tanks are usually built with a lot of health. Technically, his MP shield, it might make more sense to build him with a lot more MP instead of HP. But that said, I'm just going to go with usual tanking style. Miyake's Elpis, highest HP badge you got. And then a way to regen a little extra mana, along with health, of course. And then Grasta that improve health. And he has a Fated Star proof for Grasta. So that gives him 8600 HP before any buffs or anything during the fight. So next is, who's the damage dealer? Nina and Izuna make a case, but Izuna is just really, really powerful. So she is built for damage, Elpis, Dryads, highest int as possible. Power of Pains. In this case, since it's a magic team and there's not one particular element type, if I know I'm going up against an enemy that's weak to thunder, I would probably put in a weakness badge. But against a neutral enemy or somebody not weak to thunder or weak to magic, then the brute power of pain is an additional pain modifier and improves her type attack because she is a thunder type attack user, with a Fated Star proof as well. Her skills are pretty much the same as always, at least with my teams. Tengu Sublimation improves staff characters' damage by 50% and improves hits based on how many hits there are. Improves damage based on how many hits there are. Thunder God Dance is the only one that takes a bit of a hit. Her intellect and speed and her damage against weak points increases regardless. If I'm in a thunder zone, I have additional buffs, but I don't have a thunder zone. I have a magic zone going, so this half of the skill not happening. And then, of course, her stellar skill, Thundercrack, magic attack, hits 5 times. After you enter hyper-focus mode, its strength increases tremendously. So that leaves Yuna and Nina to be support. Yuna, through her skills, has the ability to restore MP. Once I find Iridescent Blessing. It's a regen. It restores health, restores MP, and improves maximum MP and maximum HP. Divine Utterance is kind of the opposite. It does buff the party, but it also burns away enemies' power and intellect, so she's able to reduce incoming damage with Divine Utterance. Divine Vessel, her stellar skill, will stack both of those at the same time, so she'll simultaneously weaken the enemy and improve party's health, and she does buff inversion. So if an enemy tries to buff itself, she can cast Divine Vessel and reverse everything, and it's a magic attack that hits twice. Oh, her gear. Since she's a support character, I try to build her as such. So she has items that improve resistances. In her case, she also has a non-type attack, so the Dark Spirit Kakara is technically buffing her Divine Vessel skill. Notice it doesn't have an element. And then the rest of her gear, Mujima Ring, the longer the fights go, the less damage she takes. She also has an HP 2000 badge, and she has Almighty Power Eastern, which she and Izuna are Eastern characters, so she is supplying a little bit of passive improved damage for Izuna. An otherwise sound body staff, which improves the entire party's HP and MP, and a power of rebirth to give her her own passive MP regen, just in case. Things get dispelled, you never know. Nina, the other estranged character, she is also a magic user. So her spammable skill, which I put in the first slot for AF blasts, is her stellar ability, Dreamlike Stitch. It hits 4 times, and it's a magic attack, albeit crystal. It does improve the entire party's crystal attack, which she's the only crystal user, so it really doesn't help too much, but it also gives the party a 50% damage barrier. Inspiration improves physical resistance, magic resistance, and improves max HP and it stacks. And then Burst Seam's Cage, it's preemptive, it hits 5 times, and it reduces enemies' power, intellect, and speed. It stacks, and it is the source of pain in this fight. And she also provides a shield to the whole party based on 30% of Nina's max HP. So the shield maxes at 2,000. If you can get her HP past 6,000 or whatever 30% works out to, but around 6,000 health, and she should max out the party's shield. Now, the shields do not overlap. Nina provides a shield, and Yakumo provides a shield. And it's not like he'll take the better one. Whichever skill is the most recently cast skill is the skills, or is the shield that will be up at any given time. So if you're doing a super boss and the amount, the level of the shield really matters, that's why I have crunch time kind of put down here. It's really there just to provide physical resistance, magic resistance, things like that. So if I cast that once at the start of like an AF burst, for example, and then I spam his other attacks, Nina's shield, the 2001 for the whole party, will most likely be the one in effect. So, shared Grasta. We have a whole team of nothing but staff users. So a bunch of staff Grasta makes sense. Enhance if max HPs, power of offense, magic. Since we don't have a crystal zone or a thunder zone, we don't have to worry about those, but magic zone, yes. And then Melody has resident power shadow, power of awakening staff, and power of thunder. Since Izuna is the main damage dealer, it makes sense to try and maximize her thunder type attacks. And I'm thinking, I don't think I went over Nina's gear. Purity Staff, I think it's boosted from the Wandering Blacksmith. Status resistance, damage decreased over time like Mujima, improves her speed. Stamped Ring gives her type resistance and improves her speed even more, though she doesn't have much shadow. And she also has an HP 2000 badge. I finally got my third one recently. I think it was at 2,700 cat stamps from the Phantom Crystal Dimension. And then she has Enhance at low HP. If characters do get hit, if the shields give way and people take damage, they still get a bit of a damage boost. Resident Power Light, because half of this team is light and half is shadow. And then she has her own passive MP regen as well, in case Yuna's buff is dispelled or runs out or whatever. So that's the team. Sidekicks, Gunts and Kumos. Gunts, his auto skill at the end of every turn inflicts 3 stacks of Thunder Elemental Break. There's only one Thunder user on the team, so Thundercrack will be making use of these Elemental Breaks. Over time, he will also improve the party's type resistance. And whenever I blow the AF gauge, after it's emptied, all party member stats improve by 20%. Kumos is in the back row. Kumos, it activates upon taking magic damage, enemies only. Their magic resistance decreases, and their damage output decreases. So he is preventing even more damage from happening with them on the team. If I put him in the front row, I could decrease shade resistance, but the only person that helps is Yakumo, and he's not the main damage dealer. I would also gain an MP regen. However, Yuna's is more than enough to handle the whole team, so I'm not too worried about that. So I'm really just using Kumos for his aura, and that's why I don't have Tetra either. Yuna is going to take care of the healing, so Tetra doesn't have to. So during this little burst here, you can also pay attention to the HP and MP levels of the party as the fight goes on. So we are going to blow the AF gauge. We're already at 50 season stacks, so with 50 season stacks, his overwork buff lasts 5 turns. I mean, not that this fight's going to be 5 turns, but... So... we are in an awakened zone right away, so if this was a real fight, I could also cast Crunch Time early on to improve physical and magic resistance for 5 whole turns. But what we're going to do, we're going to blow the AF gauge, we'll do the 3s, which are mostly buffs, and in this case, pain. Then we're going to do the 2s, which again are often buffs or debuffs. And then we're going to spam all 1s. And when you see the hit points increasing and the MP increasing and everything, Remember that inspiration stacks 3 times. It could go higher. We're just not casting inspiration 3 times during the battle. So 3, 3, 3, 3. 2, 2, 2, 2. All ones. And we'll burst when convenient. You'll see that Thundercrack, despite not being in a thunder zone, is still doing over 1 billion per hit. Alright, we take a look. Yakumo's health is at 11,000. Yuna's is at 10,000. 9,000 for Nina, and 7,000 for Best Girl Azuna. Their MP levels are very high as well. You can see that they're about half full. And so those numbers, it's not exactly half, but you are definitely hitting over 1650 MP for these 3 characters. And I don't know how much MP Yakumo has. 5,000 something? Maybe 6,000? Something ridiculous, I'm sure. Now, one thing to consider with this team, the Overclock, of course, will do damage and deploy a magic zone. Divine Vessel, no problem. Thundercrack, of course. Dreamlike Stitch. If you use Dreamlike Stitch in a burst, you deploy an Awakened Crystal Zone. So, not so helpful if you're trying to stay in a magic zone. So do keep that in mind. That only happens during a burst. If you're not in a burst, like when I exit this, you're going to see that I'm still in a magic zone. So in this case, I can just go ahead and cast something else. I can do Lunatic, whatever. So there's my magic zone, which starts back at 0 now. There's 50. And this team, doing magic damage, restoring a lot of MP at the end of each turn, pulled off around 18 billion in damage in one AF burst. So, very comparable to some of the other just kind of for fun teams. Somewhat non-traditional. You could argue it's just simply a magic team, but this is the Estranged Team, made up of all Estranged users. The 5th and final team was kind of fun to put together. You wouldn't think that these 4 characters have much in common, but if you check their personality traits, they are all mounted personality. They all ride something. Annabelle, Galliard, Seti, Kikyo, Kyo, Shiguri, and Shion all are mounted characters. Among many other personality traits. Whoops, there it is, mounted. Now there is no Grasta boosting damage or sound body mounted or anything like that. So this team just was assembled because fun. In this case, Annabelle is going to be the primary damage dealer. It just so happens that Annabelle, Seti, and Shion normal style are all fire users as well. Even better, Annabelle, when she's in Guiding Light mode, deploys a fire stance, not an awakened one, just a regular fire stance. She also simultaneously applies pain and poison, and it's persistent and it ignores resistance. So right off the bat, fire zone and pain on all enemies. Other things that she can do: Moral Will improves physical and type resistance. Tenderness, there's our regen, and most importantly our MP regen, and it restores statuses. And then her stellar skill, Justice, it activates the strongest learned unique skill, which is in this case Paladin's Path. In Guiding Light mode, she begins praying, which reduces damage for all allies, and then she follows it with Divine Dusk, which gives her a power, int, and speed boost, the rest of the team the same, and attacks twice. Since she is the main damage dealer, I gave her Elpis, Dryads, Power Badge, Power of Pains. My Annabelle has 156 light, so I could give her another badge, but for many people she doesn't, so sticking with 3 and 3. And a Faded Star Proof. SETI is there for support. So since Annabelle, I got really excited when I formed this team because I'm like, oh, I could make a slash team and Xion could be the slash person. For whatever reason, Annabelle is a Pierce character when you use her ES form. So that killed that idea. But SETI is also Fire and Pierce, which means he can hold Lance-related Grasta. Things like Sound Body Lance, Enhance if Max HP Lance, Enhance if Max HP Fire. He's built for defense. Xion is pretty good as a damage dealer, and since we're in a fire zone, he does fire-type attacks. So I went ahead and gave him Elpis, Dryads, Power, and 3 Pains as well. Shiguri is a tank, so he is geared for tanking. He has Moonshade, Stamped, Galaxy Badge. A few of those are to improve combo rates, and basically because I was too lazy to switch out gear from his normal tank setup. And then he has 2 Enhance if Max HP Katanas and Enhance if Max HP Eastern. All 3 of those will not only buff himself, but also buff Xion. If I had done something like, if I'd given him like a katana for fire characters, then that would only be buffing Xion and not himself. And he does a pretty decent amount of damage as well. For back row characters, we have to stick with the mounted theme. Galliard is mounted. And Kikyo is mounted. They both drive futuristic type vehicles. So Galliard is holding more Lance Grasta to improve the damage for Annabelle. Power of Inferno, Enhance if Max HPs. Kikyo is holding Resonant Power Light because 5 out of the 6 people here are light users. The only one that's Shadow is Galliard. Power of Offense Fire, because we're going to be in a fire zone, and Almighty Power Eastern. That does not help Annabelle, but that does buff up the 2 katana users. Sidekicks. Hyuga. Good old Hyuga. For every turn that passes, he improves the party's power, and technically crit rate, but we have Elpis gear. And it stacks. And then he is equipped with Armored Claw, which reduces physical resistance and also stacks. So after 5 turns, the party's power is greatly improved and physical resistance is greatly decreased. And Gunts, always a good character to go to. When the AF gauge is empty, everyone's stats goes up by 20%. Now you might say to yourself, well, Casual, this is a fire team and you have a wind user as your tank. Why not just swap to Galliard instead, and at least that way during an AF burst, he has earth attacks. It's not like it's much more helpful, but at least he can keep the AF burst going. Well, that's what I did initially, but even Shiguri doing wind attacks in a fire zone, the damage output was greatly improved because Shiguri is awesome. So I left him in. Plus the other downside, if you want this to be a functional team, you're going to have fights that last more than 3 turns. Galliard Stellar Awakened has the ability to enter Thundercrack mode, which means he can attempt to dodge attacks. But it starts off at the beginning of the battle, it lasts for 3 turns, and then it stops, which means starting from turn 4 onward, he's not dodging anything, and he doesn't have a rage skill either. So he's not really a great tank, at least past turn 3. Shiguri, or Sugar Ray as I like to call him, he can continue tanking past turn 3, and his dodge mechanism basically lasts as long as I have his tanking up. Which, where's Cease? Cease enters Vajra Blade, and that is his tanking mode. So that is the team. I have MP Regen, I have Pain, I have Fire Zone, I have 3 fire users, and I have buffing, I have 2 damage dealers in this case, and a tank. And sidekicks that support the team. So, let's see how they do. The mounted team. Normally I put my main damage dealers like second or third because someone else is setting pain or someone else is doing a fire zone. I want usually the first few characters to provide some buffs or debuffs so that way when the main damage dealer starts doing their moves, there's at least a little bit of buffage or debuffage going on. In this case, I want to get a fire zone right away so I can maximize the length that the AF burst is going. Because if I have her third, that means Seti and Xion both take their moves and are not contributing to increasing the AF gauge. So we're going to just basically spam the 3s for all characters. Then we're going to hit the 2s for all characters. And then we're going to hit the 1s and just continue to spam the first skill for each character. And let's see how they do. 3, 3, 3, 3. 2, 2, 2, 2. All 1s. We can burst. Just so happens that all of my characters are Stellar Awakened. Now, if I have Xion Normal Style's Stellar skill, then he would deploy an Awakened Slash Zone. Remember, our main damage dealer is a Pierce character, despite the sword that she's holding. So if I deploy a Slash Zone, that actually reduces her damage compared to what I have now. So in his case, we're just going to do another Phoenix Slash. Hold up. Justice. See, Fire Zone and Prayer going on.
I'm gonna cut you to pieces.
And we continue our assault until the AF gauge has completed. And then we're given a choice. Do we use Annabelle or Shiguri? We're going to use Annabelle's EX move. And she gets on her mount that looks suspiciously like Deirdre. Guess it's Ponydre.
Now, we must fulfill the promise we have made.
And
Charge
wait.
forth with strong conviction and impenetrable faith.
And all 9s. This mounted team that is, I believe, fully functional. I mean, look at the health, look at the MP regen. Just did 39 billion damage on Bag Baddie. Or Big Bag Baddie, I guess this one is. So there you go, non-traditional team. You have a wind user in a fire team, basically. You have your main damage dealer as Pierce, and half the team is Slash. But you know what? It kind of works, and I really think that they would be perfectly fine against a lot of bosses. They have the MP regen, they have heals, they have damage reduction, they have debuffs, they have a zone, they have a prayer, they have a tank. I mean, that's pretty much covers everything, I think. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. 5 teams that are themed. Not necessarily like a fire team or a Slash team, but just something fun. I check their abilities, I look at their personalities, and I go, who else is a sweet tooth? And then I start looking for tanks, I look for damage dealers, support characters, way to sustain, HP regen, MP regen, do the zones line up, and so forth. And I found some really fun combinations. And that's kind of the basis of team building. For most people, when they want to create a very powerful team, they look at either the elements like fire, or they look at the attack type like piercing, and then they look for other piercers or other fire users or whatever the case is. Well, once you get that down and kind of mastered and it's making sense, feel free to challenge yourself. Form a Midlands Palace team. I actually tried to. I had something in the works, but it wasn't quite as sustainable as I would have wanted. Form a mounted team, have fun with the game. That's kind of what the game is about. It leads to some crazy combinations and possibly some interesting little discoveries along the way. So I hope this video gives you some idea on how you can look at characters, look at common personality traits, and actually form usable, sustainable, successful teams. So hope this helps. Casual Crono, signing out.